Abolish all cars.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, so crazy. So crazy.
Hyperbole? Not by much. The car, synonymous with freedom, has been a part of the American culture from post-World War II suburbia all the way through the sprawling highways filled with endless commutes. But what if this obsession isn't just a lifestyle choice, but in actuality it's a sickness?
This is a sickness of the highest order.
One not even a drug can fix. Today's relocation spotlight focuses on North Carolina. This state is a job-producing powerhouse, boasting one of the top, and in fact, top 10 economies in the US. But with all this growth, not just job, but population, we're talking about nearly 1.5 million new residents in the past 15 years, according to the US Census, comes the challenges, and particularly challenges of car dependency and the strain of that, what that can do to the state of North Carolina. Now, this isn't just about long commutes. No, the more important thing is this is about how public transit options can help address economic, health, and congestion challenges. There's areas within North Carolina. We're going to focus on three main areas. The Research Triangle, which includes Durham, Raleigh, and Chapel Hill. Piedmont Triad, which is Greensboro, Winston-Salem, and High Point. And finally, the largest city in North Carolina, Charlotte. So with as far as economic impact, I mean, going back to that powerhouse, and speaking of powerhouse, the Research Triangle is, probably next to like Austin and Silicon Valley is just a complete powerhouse. You have companies like Apple, IBM, Google investing billions of dollars, which is contributing to that top 10 status. You have just a whole pool of talent there. So that is all fine and great. But of course, with all that talent and that population demands, all of the costs are going to cars because everybody has a cars. There was a option for a commuter rail in 2023, but the legislative now, some of this is going to speculation. Probably car lobby got involved. Now again, speculation alert, may have stifled that. I don't have direct evidence to that fact, but it just seems like there's a kind of a trend, underlying theme of in any major project that can help the betterment of all, it goes kind of back to the car. So that computer rail was derailed, pun intended, back in 2023. Next, Piedmont Triad is showing really, really great promise. I talked about Greensboro, folks, in kind of one of those overlooked cities. It's really under the radar, of course, but it lacked, and I made the main point there, really great urbanism. And so, but it's still a growing city, but it has a diversified base, and it's a great alternative to the Research Triangle. So Greensboro really heads this group of three. It does have Amtrak service, but it's just not enough. And of course, Winston-Salem, which is now more than cigarettes, that is also has great economic drivers, and High Point. So that's where it's really lacking, and kind of what's happening when I'll talk about the final city, Charlotte, right? You're going to have that urban suburban sprawl, which always happens, and how are people going to get back to the city centers or wherever the headquarters of the corporate offices are? They're going to jump in the car. So if they can somehow kind of use that existing Amtrak infrastructure and create a commuter line, I know it's going to take time, because I think Research Triangle and Charlotte will get mainly focused from the state legislative assembly. And then once those are handled, they'll probably eventually trickle down to Piedmont Triad. But this of the three is the one where it's probably going to not have as many resources as the other two. But there is at least the Amtrak station with Greensboro. Charlotte, finally, within the economic point I'm making here, is a sprawling city, the biggest city that has went from urban to suburban, and is showing great promise. It has light rail. Of the three areas, it has the most light rail, but more is needed. anchored by the banking and the tech sector. Much more is needed to be able to meet the needs of a lot of professionals, particularly a lot of professionals moving from New Jersey, New York, Boston, the other larger cities that are accustomed to that public transit. So it's going to need that to meet the needs of the growing population. So while it's making great steps, there is more definitely that's needed. There is some mobility plans in the future, but for the here and now, it's just not enough to meet a very, very large, rapidly growing Charlotte population. The Research Triangle's car-centric layout really discourages an active lifestyle. Efforts like Durham's American Tobacco Trail are steps forward. But without integrated public systems, the health benefits are limited. Lower pollution levels could be achieved through investments in public transit. With Piedmont Triad, Winston-Salem's Long Branch Trail and the Elm Street in Greensboro are a good start. However, disconnected transit systems prevent these initiatives from reaching its full potential. If we can somehow have some cleaner transit solutions, that could definitely help across the whole entire region. Charlotte's light rail adjacent neighborhoods demonstrate how transit-oriented design can encourage walking and biking. Expanding these efforts to underserved areas could combat sedentary lifestyles and reduce the prevalence of pollution-related health issues. Now let's address congestion. The North Carolina population has surged, particularly in Charlotte and the Research Triangle. So that is going to necessitate more public investment, particularly in transit, in order to kind of play that balancing act between population growth and getting people where they need to be. As it pertains to the Research Triangle, a commuter rail system connecting Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill could alleviate a lot of the car congestion. Some of the good news is there's been a $25 million bus grant to help with that, alleviating the traffic, but it's just nearly not enough. So they really got to focus on that light rail to connect all three, and that's the start. And then we can talk about the kind of inner portion of each of those cities, but that would be a great start of getting people around versus them using their car. In Research Triangle, there is $25 million devoted to that bus grant. In Piedmont Triad, I mean, there's virtually nothing. Forget about even just bus travel. There is, of course, no rail there, so there's continued gridlock. So adding, again, very similar to Research Triangle, some type of light rail could alleviate those bottlenecks with all those cars on the highway and help basically balance also the increasing population in Piedmont Triangle. Now let's talk about Charlotte. Charlotte's reliance on the I-277 continues and contributes to that gridlock. But at least having a blue line, which is their light rail, one of the light rails for Charlotte, alleviates some of that congestion. So they really, I mean, I think Charlotte right now, folks, has the most potential. It is the biggest city, and at this time has the most transit funds devoted to it, right? So maybe we start with Charlotte and then expand out to Research Triangle, and then from the Research Triangle, expand to Piedmont Triad. But that's a start. So if they continue in the neighborhoods, have a dedicated, really good service to the Charlotte Airport, that could lead and plant the seeds of having more of a public transit reliance instead of a car reliance.